Incredible. I don't know how Kathleen Donnelly has time to talk about her National Forest Canine series because she just keeps writing them. Kathleen, Buried Lies is your fourth. I think you've been on the show for all of them so far. And
Oh.
I don't know how you keep up this wonderful level of dog-centric thrillers, mysteries, murders, excitement. Do you lead a very quiet personal life and you just invent things and you imagine all the horrors that could go on in the beautiful forests and mountains and woods near where you live in Colorado?
Definitely. First of all, thank you for having me on the show again. And yeah, I lead a pretty easygoing life. It's nothing like the books. I think growing up in near the mountains and hearing news stories over the years of all the things that can go wrong in the mountains, never to me personally, thank goodness. Sometimes, like this fall, we just had a family who was visiting from Illinois. It was a beautiful day, 60 degrees. They started a hike. A storm moved in. By the end of the hike, it was a foot of snow and 20 degrees because that's
Oh,
Colorado for you, and they had to
I
be
know.
rescued. So you
That
read
that
news stories like that, and it just helps.
it does help. You're right, because we all read these stories in various mountains, and sometimes you think,
Yes.
what were the people thinking? They go out in their
Yeah.
sneakers and they're alone and no cell phone or no cell service and a light
Yes.
jacket and never mind water. And those people, I always think, are putting a horrible strain on emergency services. Now, your
Yeah,
characters are emergency service responders.
they are.
They never seem to gripe about the people they have to save because they're usually not just saving stranded people, they're figuring out how people died, and it's usually at the hands of another human, right?
Yes, exactly. And I have to say, I have to give a shout out to our emergency services, at least
Yeah,
in my area,
yeah.
because even when they have to go rescue someone who did something really maybe not the smartest move, they never complain. They're just,
No.
and that's definitely an inspiration. It's an amazing job. But my characters, yes, they are having to constantly figure out who killed who, why, and if they're in danger themselves.
And
Because,
it's usually all of the above. We aren't
it
sure.
is.
Yes, they're in danger. And often the dog, Juniper, is one of several dogs who is really good at helping them get the information they need.
Yeah.
Now, talk a little bit about your informants on the inside that have taught you so much about these dogs and how they work in partnership with humans.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest informants have been the dogs themselves. I recently retired from canine work. I worked at dogs for 19 years with a private narcotics business, and we went into schools and helped keep schools safe. So the dogs themselves are great
Right.
co-authors. They're fantastic. And then I'm very lucky. I have some friends. One gal worked with us with Sherlock Hounds with the drug dog business, but she was a
Yes.
retired police officer. She's willing to read the books for me, so she gives me a lot of feedback.
You
And
say
she worked
willing,
a
but it's fun. It's really fun.
yeah.
I often do with my cuticles when I'm reading them. I'm like, don't go there, don't do that. Hey, it's probably that guy. Oh, it's not that guy. Never mind. They're
Thank
really good at weaving a tale with
you.
clues and not like the kind of manipulative red herrings that we sometimes think of in a mystery. Just they're trying to find their way to the path of
Yeah.
truth or information or facts. So, do you think that the dog working community is a community that you all do share? I don't, obviously, you all share a love of being partnered to do
Mhm.
a job, but is there a sharing of swapping of tales over a beer?
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. When I missed that part of working because we would train and then maybe go out if it was hot, we'd train really early in the morning, go out to breakfast or something and share different tales. Our trainers would tell us different things that had happened to them. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But luckily,
Yes.
your work in the schools with detection of, I think it was drugs, but
Mhm.
also alcohol. Remember one time you
Yes.
told a story, I still am amazed that some teen at the high school had an unopened bottle of some kind of booze in the car, unopened, and the dog
Yeah.
alerted to it. And I was like, what? Remind me
Oh,
how that's
definitely.
possible. You obviously the dog can't smell through glass, but how was it possible?
Oh, it's very possible. Actually, they can smell through as long as there's airflow. They can smell something. So And really, when you stop and think about it, a vehicle has a lot of airflow, all the door cracks, all the grill, all of that. And even a bottle that hasn't been opened, there's a little bit of airflow, and their noses are just so superior. We had another parking lot incident where the dog alerted, and that we found marijuana, but it was inside a jacket, inside a pill bottle, inside a baggie, and then that was the marijuana. So that's four layers,
Wow.
maybe five actually, with the car that the dog had to sniff through, and they sift through all those smells. It's just amazing to me. They are truly amazing. So it is really hard to trick a drug dog. I've had people ask me how, and I'm like, you pay off the handler. That's how.
That's funny. That's right. The only now
Yeah.
Juniper isn't a drug dog, or is she? I can't remember. She scents
Mhm.
for alive and dead humans, although she's good at blood. She's really good at blood.
There is another dog I introduced who's a human remains dog, and that
Right.
is Finn. And he does
Right.
the live and human remains scent. Juniper actually is a dual purpose. She does narcotics, she apprehends, she tracks live scent, although sometimes those dogs will cross over. They've found someone's deceased, they might still follow that track. And she does evidence searches. So now between Josh's dog and Juniper, Josh's dog Finn and Juniper, Maya's dog, we have a lot of it covered. We can
Now,
do a lot.
the relationship between Maya and Josh, that is what had me chewing my cuticles because I thought, and obviously you were making me think this. I didn't think it all on my own, but he was like probably not a great choice for a mate, for a partner. Was that your intention to make us kind of wary, suspicious, nervous because of his past?
It was. I thought I can use this past. He came in to the book in Chasing Justice where he had really worked to change his past. And he's been to rehab. He's changed a lot about himself. And so he was in a better spot for a relationship. And at that time, Maya wasn't in the best spot. But now by book four, his past is coming back to haunt him. Because I think my thinking with it is when we make these choices, sometimes it's hard to get away from them. You do your
Definitely.
best to change, but the past is the past and you can't ever really get away from it. So that was the premise for me.
Which works. It works because they're on a mission to find buried lies, which is but you do make us suspicious of Josh, who's the main human character. Just
Yes.
suspicious of him. Or what
Yeah.
buried lies does he have? And of course, it's a nice double entendre, the title,
Yeah. It is.
Buried Lies the Body. Why don't you read us a little piece of it so people get a sense of, I don't know, just the way you pull us into the work with the dogs, what the dogs do. It raises our appreciation and admiration level for the
Sure.
canine characters. So set up this scene. You're better at it than I am.
Sure. We are coming in to where they have found a deceased human in a slash pile in the mountains. Slash piles are just big. They cut dead trees and whatnot and pile them up. And every time I'm up in the mountains and you see them, because they'll burn them come winter time. So it's a forest management practice. But I'm always like, that'd be a great place to hide a dead body.
Oh, that's what goes through
So
your
that's what goes through my mind. I might lead a boring life, but yes, those are still the things going through my mind. So they found this person. They're trying to figure out if there's evidence, and Maya is working Juniper to help with that. Here we go.
okay.
Ma- All right. Maya took Juniper around the area of the bloodstain, making sure to stay far enough away that they didn't ruin any evidence. There were several larger footprints that were maybe from boots. The prints were about Josh's size. She found what she thought was a good spot to start the track and cast Juniper out. Seek, go find him, Maya said. Juniper put her nose to the ground and started sniffing around. Her tail was in a neutral position, even a little droopy. That usually meant she wasn't in the odor of the person they wanted to track and was maybe even smelling an animal. Maya cast her out again in a slightly different spot, giving her the same command. This time, Juniper's body language changed as she tensed her muscles and her tail came up higher. Then the Malinois took off like a racehorse out of a starting gate. When Maya was first getting to know Juniper, she'd been surprised by the way her dog took off when she caught a scent, but after almost a year together, Maya was prepared to follow. She lost her footing a little bit in the snow, but managed to put some slack in the leash so Juniper could stay on track. Juniper went down the road at a solid clip, stopping every now and then to air scent. This side of the road had more sun and it was a mix of dry ground and mud, but overall better traction for Maya to keep up. Rory and Josh followed, each positioned to help Maya if someone tried to ambush them, but also making sure they were in a position where if they had to draw their guns, they wouldn't shoot each other. With her body language telling Maya that Juniper was staying in odor, they continued on before Juniper veered off the road. The male tracked parallel to some more imprints, and Maya made sure she stayed away from them, since it was possible for Miranda to cast footprints in snow. Miranda was going to be busy today. Juniper went over to an old tree that had fallen over and put her paws up on the log. She air scented, her nose twitching, and then hopped over the log, turned around so she was facing Maya, and lay down, her alert for evidence. "Atta girl," Maya said, peering over the log. There was a gun tucked under the branches, but sticking out enough Maya could see that it was a 6-hour. She was about ready to reward Juniper and then get her away from the weapon when it hit her. No way. It can't be, can it? "What did you find?" Josh asked. Maya's breath tightened. "I think we found the gun Amber stole from you in January." What was going on? What had Josh gotten himself involved in?
It's great because
Thank
you
you.
have a dead body. The dog is helping to track however the person either got there or the person who killed them left.
Yeah.
And now her boyfriend, who's another canine responder, is implicated. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting idea in this book as a plot because we're supposed to just care about how did the murder happen? Who did it? Why did they do it?
Right.
Who's the person who died? Where are they? But instead it's, oh God, your boyfriend could be trouble. Are you paying attention? So, when in your work that you did, or your colleagues in canine work, was domestic violence some big component of it? Any component of it? Was that something that's been on your mind?
Domestic violence, I think it plays a role. I think officers are often involved in that. They get the calls, and it's one of the most dangerous calls for them to respond to. So I think in that way it's on my mind. I've done some citizen academies and some ride-alongs, and you certainly see that part of life. So it's out there, and it's not always the people you expect.
Yes, which is one of the interesting things, the presumptions we have about who's
Yes.
involved. But then also, what about people who have orders of protection against other people, like somebody who's a compulsive stalker who had that
Yes.
gun? That whole story is a lovely convolution.
Yeah, I enjoyed twisting it around a little bit too, because again, I think when you think restraining orders, domestic violence, you're
Yeah,
always thinking it's the guy. It's got to
that's
be the
right.
guy.
That's right.
And I wanted to twist it around a little bit and have it's Josh's ex-fiance.
Yeah.
And if you read Killer Secrets, you understand why there's a restraining order against her. She's a little
And
out there.
a little out there, and maybe a
Yes,
restraining order may not be quite enough. You actually need to
exactly.
restrain her somehow or other.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you're doing your plot, I mean, before you really write it out and lay it out and then give it to your canine uh, friend who makes sure that all of that, the canine work part, do you do 3 by 5 cards? How do you create a plot, as you say,
Yeah.
twist it up and weave the different ideas and drop a hint or drop a false hint? I don't think it's like a stream of consciousness where you just do it as it
No.
comes to you. That's impossible. It's too carefully woven. So how do you do that for anybody who really wants to get inside the mind of a novelist who's a thriller writer, a mystery writer, a killer diller writer?
A killer, a killer on paper.
Yeah.
I have a process where I start first. I always know my protagonist, and of course that's very easy with these books. It's always Maya and
Right.
Juniper. And then I come up with an inciting incident. So what is going to happen? When can the character no longer just leave or walk away from the story? So we have a murder. That's the inciting incident, but it's not just anyone. It's Josh's ex fiance. So I start playing with it there, the story goals. So just really basic things. Once I actually have those things figured out, I like to do, I've heard it called mind mapping or star bursting.
Oh, words. See, that's why
Yeah.
the authors of mysteries and thrillers have to work differently. So it's called,
Yeah, or mind
wow,
mapping is the other
I like
term.
that.
Yeah, you just put, say you put red herring in the middle of a sheet of paper and then you just start going off different directions with ideas. Could it be, what was the red herring Josh? Or
Really?
could it be Maya? Or could it be, or is it another officer? Or will it be? So I just start brainstorming. Nothing's off limits.
And you make it a map. You mean it's actually, you draw a circle and the word
Yeah,
everyone
and
is in the middle, and then it has
yeah, I'm
branches that
looking.
come off of it.
Yeah, I don't have any. I was like looking to see if I had any around here, but yeah, it looks there's just different ideas coming off of it. And then those ideas, so it looks really messy by the time you're done, but it really helps you brainstorm. So it's definitely something I suggest Googling if you're a writer. Google it and you'll find if you Google mind mapping or starbursting, you'll find all sorts of examples on the internet.
Is it called starbursting because these tributaries, if you will, come off of the circle? It looks like a bursting
Yes.
star.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah. So once I get through that, then I go to my outline. And again, I'm always brainstorming. I'm always asking myself, what does the reader know? What does each character know? What is
Oh,
this scene
yeah.
here for? What every scene has to have a purpose. We can't just have a scene to have a scene.
It's more like movie where
Yeah.
has to propel the story. There's no lollygagging.
Yes.
There's no I don't know, uh, exploration. You move the story along.
Exactly. Yeah. And so once I have my outline set, then I start writing. The main points are there, and then when you write, you can have fun and start filling in
Right.
maybe descriptions or setting or
Dialogue.
you know,
You know your characters so well, you don't have to
yeah.
invent them as you go along. You've lived with them for so long. So, did you ever
Yes.
take a mystery writer's workshop or some such like that?
I did. Actually, I need to credit Grant Blackwood. He's a New York Times bestselling author, and he's co-authored with James Rollins, Tom Clancy, Clive Cussler, and
Wow.
he taught a workshop. He lives here in Colorado as well, and he
Oh,
taught a
darn.
workshop, and I was able to go, and he really shared his process. I tweaked it for myself, and that really helped me because you have so many little clues and things going on. You have to get them in, but not have them be forced or
Right.
unbelievable.
Many people were in that class or whatever it was.
Oh gosh, I think there was about
Oh, it was
20 people.
small.
Yeah, a very small class. So it was great. And I was that person constantly asking questions.
But so do you recommend that if someone thinks I could write a thriller, there's some area that I understand well, the way you understand working dogs so well,
Yeah.
then how do you write a story around it that's a mystery or a thriller or could become part of a series? Do you recommend that, taking a course in teaching you those meat and
Mhm.
basics?
I would, especially if you have someone available like Grant, who's a New York Times bestseller, so he knows what he's
What
doing.
works? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of courses out there. Not all of them are from people who truly know. So look at the instructor, make sure that they are walking the walk, so to speak. And conferences, writers' conferences have a lot of classes. There's a lot of different ways to go out and learn, and I highly
There are some
recommend
courses.
taking one.
And if you want to write a book series like you've done, it seems to me, although when reading it, it's all just very entertaining, you think this had to be hard work to build
Oh,
the
it's not
structure, to
easy.
build this superstructure, and then insert the color or the
Yes,
personalities, which is what makes it good fun and carries us along. But the story has to be compelling. And the worst thing you can do, of course, is trick us because they'll manipulate it. And
yes.
and you don't want to drop some clues and hints and then forget to tie them up.
Exactly. I can't remember who said it now, very famous author who said if there's a gun over the mantle at the beginning of the book, that it better be used. And
Yes.
that is great advice. And two other great organizations for people writing mystery, thriller, suspense, even romantic suspense, Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. They offer so much, and international thriller writers too.
Really?
Those,
They're all
yeah.
that if one joins, you get a lot of benefits. They
Mhm.
all really
Yeah. Yeah. For all levels of writers too.
even
Yeah.
accomplished or
Mhm.
neophytes. What's interesting is that once you get on a path, as you are, it becomes a series, and that's what publishers like,
Yeah.
and that's what readers like. And sometimes I think, well, isn't that hard for you to come up with another story? But it's probably a lot easier because you know the characters so well. You use that as your springboard.
You do. And what's really funny, I've decided I'll just keep going with the series as long as I feel like I have fresh ideas. So I finished writing book number 5, and I remember telling my husband, I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is where it ends. I
until you
wrap a
go
lot of
for
stuff.
until you go for another walk and see another bird
Exactly.
pile and think, I wonder what's in that.
And
Also,
that's, yes.
you also in the book talk a lot about Malinois and their enormous need for stimulation, for exercise. You're very mindful that these dogs are not just a tool for the officers or for you as the author, but they have a whole inner and outer life of their own that needs looking after.
They do. Working dogs are complicated because they're not pets. They have a job. They have a little bit of different rules, so to speak, at home. And so I like to show that throughout the book. But at the same time, people would say to me, oh, they don't get to lay on the couch. And I'm like, not until they're retired.
Right.
But I'm like, there's rules. What I always want to love to show is that even though maybe they're not living the pet life, they're with us all the time. They
Oh
are
yeah.
out working with us. It's almost a better life in
Oh, for
many
sure.
ways.
I because
They're not being left behind.
yeah, they're doing what their brain and their body are designed for,
Yeah.
destined for, and what
Yeah.
gives their life meaning and purpose. Because they do sleep in a crate when they're not working, and when they're in the truck or the big car, the
Yeah.
SUV, they're in a crate.
Yeah, they're in a crate or a compartment. Mine were always in crates,
Yep,
safest way to travel, and you don't
yep.
want a working dog loose in your car. That
Because
can be interesting.
they get very hyped up. I mean,
They
we can
do.
tell that they need the release, which is the working. And then
Yes,
when they're back in their crate, it's their downtime. Otherwise, how do
exactly.
they know that they're not still on duty? For a dog
Yeah.
like Juniper with a nose that's been trained in various professions, if you will, I
Yeah.
mean, how do you turn your nose off? I guess when you're in your crate, you turn your nose off,
Yeah.
so to speak.
You do, yeah. They know it. They definitely know it. And I think the other thing you have to keep in mind is the working dogs, they would work until they fell over. And once in a while you hear about that. You have to be very careful. And as we're speaking about it, Boomer's come over to say hello, my retired guy. He says he agrees with everything we're saying, but yeah, they will just work for you nonstop. And so you have to be the one to say they need a
They
break,
need
they
a
need
break and you
water.
get a different dog. They need water or
Yeah.
they got to go back in their truck to get a different dog to do the second part of this looking. Well,
Yes.
even when you were doing your drugs in schools program, did those dogs never live with you? Because I don't think of them as high powered as these dogs that will go out and chase, and they're meant to be more friendly. That was the whole point of your business,
Yes,
right? That they were
it was.
friendly looking labs. Did they
Yes.
ever live in the house?
Oh, they do. They live in the house. They just had working dog rules. So like they weren't allowed to be loose in the house
They
because
weren't.
they would try to find, yeah, they'll
Oh,
try to find something. And we teach them to get up on couches and tables and counters and everything. And you
right.
can't discipline them for that. You have to
That's
say, good
funny.
checking, good checking. That's
That's
good
funny.
job.
Now, when
Yeah.
they're tired, you switch the rules on them and say, "Yeah, you can get up on the counter. I just want to make sure I don't leave a loaf of bread there."
Yeah, we work a little bit too. It's interesting. By the time they retire, they're starting to slow down. Their hips are starting to feel it. They're less inclined to do that. But you have to watch them. You do have to watch them. I had Boomer out on a walk a couple days ago and he's sniffing around. I thought, yeah, let him
Yeah.
sniff. That's good. Yeah, it's good for him. And the next thing I know, he had something in his mouth. I still don't know what it was. I pulled it out. I think it was something dead. Who knows? He knows we're talking about him, don't you? He used his nose in that way, but so you have to watch him a little bit, but
Well,
it's
it's great. You've done an amazing job, Kathleen Donnelly, on
oh,
Buried
thank you.
Lives.
Thanks.
It's really terrific. National Forest Canine series, and just keep them coming. Just keep on going out in the
I
world,
will.
come up with ideas, and we'll be delighted to read about them. Thank you, Kath.
Thank you so much. And I
Take
should just
care.
mention that there will be more books, so just
Well,
wanted
I
to.
know there will. Of course there will.
Okay.
I just don't want to hold a gun to your head like so many of your characters do. Great rest of
Exactly.
the day. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.